All right, looks like we are live right now. What's up, guys? It's been a while since I've done one of these live streams. Let's see, it looks like the audio levels are good on this one. Hopefully everything is going to run smoothly here because it has been a while. I'll give you guys a second to come in. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do on this one. I'll kind of take some votes from the audience if we want to do... If we want to continue with the grandpa box, I think we're close on that one, or if we want to just start a new one, because honestly it's been so long that I don't even remember really where we left off in that one. I'd be good with starting a fresh box, maybe coming back to that one, because either way I'm probably going to need to start at the beginning. And probably the people that watched me before, they probably don't remember what happened in the last episode either, if I didn't. But yeah, I'll give people a second. I know it is the new streaming times, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing for everyone. Otherwise, we'll just sort of go off on our own here and get something started. And I'll see you guys when you come in. So let me just take a look at Hack the Box here, see what we got, what else we can pick up. Yeah, what's up, man? Yeah, I didn't really have too big of a notification. I just posted that video, what was it, 2 days ago, I believe. Looks like some people are coming in now. That's cool. Yeah, so I was saying, I know it's been a while since I last did a live stream, so we can either continue with the grandpa box, although I can't really remember where I left off with that one, so I mean I might need to kind of start over, or we could just do a new box. Let me just pull that up, see what options we have. We can stay on the Windows path. There's some other boxes there that we can cover. I think Windows would be good because that's the thing. A lot of people are more comfortable on Linux, I feel like. But a lot of times you don't get a lot of experience outside of OSCP with Windows boxes. I mean, certainly on the job you do a lot with Windows. But if you haven't gotten there yet, then aside from Hack the Box, you probably, it's kind of new. It was definitely new to me when I was first going for OSCP. So we can grab a Windows box here then. Let me actually start up a box called Devel, which is a Windows box that is rated as... one of the easier ones, not a super easy box, but on the easier side. Because I've been gone a lot during the break for Thanksgiving and all of that, so I'm kind of jumping back into this stuff again. We're gonna... Where is it? Oh. So we're gonna call this Devel, and let's see the IP address here. I guess let me fire this box up first, give it a second to come online. Let me just check that I'm on the network. I fired this up before I started my stream, so it looks like we are connected to the Hack the Box network. Looks like we're keeping the same IP for a while, which is kind of random because sometimes like we've been changing every time we came on, but now it seems to be the same one as last time. I remember that one. But let me just do a quick ping test here to see if it came online yet or not. And okay, yep, it is accessible now. So I can exit out of this. We're going to put this IP in here. And that's going to go ahead and kick off our Nmap scans for us. Now, what we can do while we're waiting on that is to spawn our shell. These are all custom scripts I made, very simple ones. I can show in a sec. So we're going to be doing this one. And yeah, if you are interested in those scripts, I think, where was it? Home Cali, I believe. Oop. So basically, I just ran an init script, and I just pass it the name and IP address, and from there it creates my directories for me. It goes into the nmap directory and just starts running my nmap scans one at a time. There's 3 nmap scans that I typically run, so that's what I coded in here. The first one is just your basic nmap scan. Of course, it takes the IP variable that it got from the command line when I passed it in. And then once it completes with that initial nmap scan, it goes ahead and kicks off the full TCP scan, and then a little bit of a UDP one here is what it ends with. Scripts on GitHub, I didn't bother because, I don't know, at least in my head, I mean, I could if you guys want it, but in my head, this was like a very elementary script. Honestly, I thought some people might trash talk me for having such a simple script because, yeah, it's literally just a few lines. These are all Linux commands, basically, right? This read command here is basically how you can get user input. If you supply it with a -p flag, whatever the user inputs will be assigned to this variable here. So that's what I did. So it's taking input, assigning it to the name variable, taking more input, assigning it to the IP variable, and then from here it's just standard Linux commands, right? Like changing my directory, creating some directories, changing directory again, and then running nmap commands. I want to redo this eventually with a higher level like programming language and like really put something like really good automation together at some point. This was just something really quick and dirty I wrote, but I know I run these a lot on the live stream, so I wanted you guys to not be in the dark as to what's going on, because yeah, when you just see me running these, you don't really know what's happening. And then similarly, like my continue script was really simple. Like all it's doing is saying, hey, what box are you working on? Assign that to the variable name, and then I just cd into that box directory, because this is how I have all my boxes saved under home, Cali, hack the box, and then by the box name. So we're doing Devel, so that's that one. And then once I go there, I just spawn a tmux shell, and I always run this with the sudo command so that it's a root shell. That way I don't have to worry about permissions issues and all that. So that's what's going on there. Let's go ahead and if we use cd with the dash, that's how you go back to a directory that you were previously in. I know I use this command a lot and I don't really tell you guys what all things are. I kind of make a lot of assumptions, but it's on my mind now, so I'll just let you know that's what this cd dash means. It means go to the directory that you were just in. That doesn't really help me too much because I went to /root before this, but a good thing to know. So we just have to go manually there. HTTP Devel. Now, when I'm doing this and I'm tabbing through, if I double tap tab right now, it will show me everything in this directory. So everything in home, Cali, hack the box. If I double tap the tab key, so that's a quick way while you're going through. Say you're not sure what's in your current one. Okay, the Devel box. Well, is it there? Yeah. And then I double tap tab again. Okay, that's what's here. I want to go into nmap, and then I'm good. So some pretty helpful Linux stuff there. Wow, this really went pretty quick here. Is it really on the UDP scan already? Wow, it is. Okay. Well, on this box, a lot of these hack the box ones, if you notice, they have anonymous FTP login allowed, and that's something that you'll notice on the OSCP as well. A lot of those boxes I recall having anonymous FTP available. Like I said, there's a lot of crossover, in my opinion, between Hack the Box and OSCP. That's one of the reasons that I do a lot of Hack the Box, and I feature it a lot on my channel. But other than that, there's also a web server running Microsoft IIS. No surprise there because we know this is a Windows box, and on a lot of the Windows boxes that have web servers, they'll be using the Microsoft IIS. I heard a lot of great things about Cherry Tree. Personally, I don't use it, but I could see it being very good. The reason I don't use it is because back when I was taking it, Cherry Tree wasn't built into Kali. Now it is, I believe. So if you type like Cherry Tree, yeah, you'll see it right here. And so if it was available when I started, I probably would have gotten into the habit of using it. But instead, I use OneNote just because that's what I had on my system already. And at this point, I have a lot of notes on there. So I haven't like took the time to port it over to this or anything like that. But if I were just starting out, I would use Cherry Tree, definitely. It is pretty good. I have played around a little bit with it. You have like nodes and subnodes and stuff. I would recommend it. But yeah, I don't full-blown document everything as I'm working on it. I take notes of things normally, and maybe I should get in the habit of like, you know what, let's use Cherry Tree. Let's kind of keep notes on stuff. When you go to write the final report, that's when you got to really flesh out a lot of the fine details on stuff. But it's nice to have some notes, right? So you can step through it. Let's see if I can figure out how to use this here. I think we got to say... Oh, no, that just opens a new one. It's been a while since I played with this. What are my options here? Add node. Yeah, so they all go off nodes. So we'll create a node for this box. We'll call it the name of the box. And then you'll see it's like this. And then you can add like subnodes, like child nodes as they're called. So we could do one for like nmap. And basically we can just take what we have from the full scan, because it looks like UDP didn't come back with anything. So we'll just take what we have for TCP. So we'll just take this here. Control-Shift-C to copy from the terminal. And then just Control-V, paste it in over here. And yeah, that's good for that. We can create another child node. Create one for FTP. Maybe we find some useful files or something. I don't know how readable this is. It seems pretty small font to me on my screen, so I'd imagine for you guys it might be kind of difficult to see. Maybe I can enlarge that. Let's see. I'm not the most familiar with this application, so bear with me. I would think that it would probably be in view somewhere, but I'm not going to spend too much time looking at this. Can maybe Google it later, figure it out. So yeah, I'm not really seeing anything unless someone in the chat knows. Otherwise, we'll just go with this for now. You get the idea, right? You can put your nmap scans in here. You can have everything nice and organized. Let's take a look at that FTP service, right, with the anonymous login. So this one was 10.10.10.5, so we'll go to that. Oh, oops, I put 4. There we go. So anonymous, of course, that's what anonymous FTP is. It's a username anonymous, password anonymous. So now that we're here, we can run some stuff to look around, right? So we see one directory and then one file. This looks like that home page, right? Oh, there's a welcome PNG as well. Let's see if we can go into this. And we can. Let's see what's there. Okay, there's system web. And then there's this other directory here. We'll just copy paste that. Control Shift C, Control Shift V to paste from the terminal. But it does not look like there's anything here as far as I can see. So this might be a rabbit hole. Let's go ahead and fire up a web browser and check out that IIS server. Now, one thing interesting to note from our Nmap scan is that we see Microsoft IIS HTTPD. Now, 7.5, right? Now, this is a pretty old version. You can enlarge it with control mouse wheel. Okay. Sometimes I've had trouble with that within VMs. Let's see if I can do that. I can. All right, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, that's good. Now that's probably a lot more easy for you guys to see. So, yeah, with 7.5, basically these versions of IIS will tell you what version of Windows is running. Now, I know that the latest is like a 10 point something or even 11 point something. So a 7.5, that means this thing's really old. I think off the top of my head, I think this might be like a Windows 2008 server. But let's search for this. And we can get this information. There should be a Microsoft site. Well, it looks like there's some vulnerabilities instantly coming up. WebDAV. I think this was for another box though. I don't necessarily know this for this one. I remember doing this on another live stream. Actually, I think this might have been the grandpa box where we did the WebDAV, but I didn't see anything from the scan saying that, like, see, potentially risky methods just trace. When we did that WebDAV exploit on the grandpa box, I think it was grandpa, there were some other methods. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, some other methods that were actually the vulnerable ones that allowed us to exploit it with this here. But let's see. Hang on. Let's look for Microsoft IIS or IIS HTTPD versions. And yeah, it should be like a Microsoft article, I remember. IIS 7.5 Windows version, something like that. So yeah, here we go. You can see in this little table here that if I enlarge it a bit, 7.5 corresponds to either a Windows 7 or a Windows Server 2008 R2. So I'm pretty sure we're dealing with this Windows Server 2008 R2 in this case, which means that it should be pretty simple to exploit it once we're able to get our initial access on the server. But while we have this browser open, let's go ahead and check out what's at that port 80. And this looks like just some default page. So what we can do is we can look for some subdirectories and see what we have going on there. Real quick though. Oh, it looks like this closed out on me. I want to see, oops. I just want to see what was at that, that PNG or whatever, because sometimes in CTFs, you'll find some hidden gold in there. It'll be like a password or something like that. Now, OSCP doesn't typically do stuff like that. That's what we would call a very CTF-y thing to do. But you know, with these, sometimes you get that. On the better boxes, the more OSCP-like, the more lifelike boxes, you won't have those CTF-y things, but it's always good practice to kind of hunt for this stuff, right? So yeah, this welcome PNG is just that image file that we saw here, and I'm guessing that that HTML file is probably this page. It it's probably what that is, but let's just verify that if we go here. Oh, and definitely something to check that I did not check is, do we have write access? Like, could we drop a file here if we wanted to? Because we can, then we can just drop a web shell or, a shell to connect back to our listener, and we can instantly have access to this system. So let's try to, hang on a sec. Let's create a file. We'll go back. We'll make an exploits directory. Oh, we already have that. Let's go into that. And we're going to create a file called, we're going to put some data into it too, just so it doesn't act weirdly or whatever. This is a test, and we'll just put that in test.txt, right? So now when we go back to our FTP session with the anonymous login, of course, we'll try to do a put on that file. And what put is the FTP command to say, hey, upload this file onto the server. And, oh, was it successful? It was, in fact. Okay. Well, we should be able to put our own exploit there. You know what? Maybe instead of a test.txt, let's try this. Let's go to that file that we created, and instead let's just put some HTML in. So we'll put like header tags and say this is a test. Just really basic HTML. And we're actually gonna call this, instead of test.txt, we're gonna move. This is how you rename things in Linux. You use the move command. So we're gonna call this test.html. So essentially, we're saying move this test.txt file into test.html. So effectively what we're doing is renaming the file from test.txt to test.html. And the reason we want to do this is because the file extension matters to the web server. And so if it sees an HTML file, then it's going to run it as HTML. So now that we've done that, we'll go back again to this FTP session. And before you throw exploits at a box, you want to do basic testing like this, right? You want to just interact with things in a non-intrusive, or I mean, this is intrusive, of course, right? But in a less, especially like when you're on engagements and doing stuff in the real world, you first want to just do really basic stuff, like try to upload a text file, HTML file. Don't just go right at like throwing big fat exploits at it and things that could, for one thing, take longer for for you to test, but will also be less destructive, right? Testing, because like if we took all this time to find like an exploit and a shell and all this stuff, and then we found out, oh, well, actually, I can't upload anything onto the FTP server, well, then we would have wasted our time, right? That's why you want to start off with something really simple, like a HTML file. So anyways, we're just going to put that file onto the FTP server. So now let's try to go to that and see if the HTML renders. Let's go test.html. And yeah, it does. So the next thing that I'll try to do, because now that we have confirmed we can do some pretty basic stuff, and while I do this, not to get distracted too much, but while I'm doing this, we want to have our recon always running in the background. See, I'm being guilty of not following my own advice here, so let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to kick off the subders script, which I'll show you what that is. Very short script, just I can't stand typing this long GoBuster command every time. So I basically made a script that'll run it for me with the word list that I commonly use. So we're just going to run that against this IP address. And because it's an IIS server, we're going to tell it file extensions ASP and ASPX. So we'll just have that going in the background. We can rename this window as well. We'll call it GoBuster. And so if we go back here, we were able to upload an HTML file, and we were able to render it, get it to execute essentially, right? So let's see, what if we, oh man, did my VM lock up? I think it did, actually. This happens from time to time. Oh, did my whole stream, is my stream good? I can't tell. Oh yeah, it looks good. My stream looks good. I think it's just my VM. But yeah, we might need to restart this. It's looking like we'll probably need to restart this, which is fine. But yeah, we'll give it a second. All right, let's just go ahead and restart it. Unfortunate, but it does happen from time to time. That's the nature of VMs. They can be a little bit finicky with you sometimes. But no big deal. We'll just have to reconnect to the network and stuff, which is going to be the annoying part. But we did get some pretty good info, pretty valuable information from the testing that we've done so far. The next step we'd want to do is generate our own payload. So with this being a Microsoft, a Windows server, right? An IIS web server, I'm thinking that we probably generate like an ASP shell, because if it was a Linux box, we just do PHP, but we're not going to want to do a PHP if it's an IIS server. So we should be able to use MSF Venom to facilitate that. And let me just save myself some time, pop open the notes to see which payloads and all that stuff would be good for this box. Now, one bit of information I don't think I got from Nmap was whether it's a 32-bit or a 64-bit system. So we'll try the 32-bit payload. I guess I don't have too much in my notes on the formats that are available, but we can check that. So if we run MSF Venom-L for a list and then say formats, this will tell us all the supported formats. And MSF Venom is just a command line utility that I use to generate payloads. So this will take a minute to run because you have a lot of options, as you'll see on your formats. And oh, there we go. So we got all these ones here. For us, it would be like ASP or ASPX, I'm thinking. There should be a way to go here. So we'll just do, we'll try the ASP first off, I think. Now, unfortunately, we're going to have to re-kick off that GoBuster scan, but I think we're definitely on the right track with this. I'm pretty confident in this method of exploitation. But let's first reconnect to the Hack the Box VPN, right? We need to be on that network first. And while that's connecting, we'll say we're going to continue Devel. So now we can just go ahead and we'll just go ahead and generate our payload here. And our cherry tree closed out on us. It might not have saved. Yeah, I don't think it got to save, unfortunately. So we'll say -P and then give it the payload. I'm going to use a Windows interpreter 86. Or no. Windows interpreter reverse TCP. Yeah, that's what I'll use, which is a 32-bit payload. Right. And then the next thing I'm going to say is lhost. Whoa, what is going on there? Lhost, and then I'll give it, well, actually, you need the equal sign here. I believe my IP is 1422, right? Yep, just wanted to confirm that. So we'll supply it with that. We'll also supply it with the port that we want to listen on. We'll do 1337. I'm feeling pretty elite today. And then for format, say ASP. And then -O, you give it the output, just what you want to save it as. Because, right, we want to save this as a file. So we'll call this Devel.asp, because it is an ASP file. So it's going to take some time to generate that payload for us. Now, since we're using the interpreter payload in this case, hey, what's up, Amador? Amador Cortez, first time seeing you in here. Welcome. Just doing some live hacking here on Hack the Box. We actually just started a new box today. Give you a quick recap on it. We ran our nmap scan, did some initial recon. And really not too much in terms of ports on this box. We had FTP and a web server running on the standard port 80. Going to that web page, though, we didn't see much. It was just the default page. But with the anonymous FTP login, we found out we're able to actually upload files on here. And then we can browse to them because they're on the web server, right? So when you have these two things, right, you can get a shell. You should be able to get access to the box just based off those two things. That's how a lot of the offensive stuff works in security. It's like one vulnerability on its own might not mean too much, but if you combine one seemingly small vulnerability with another seemingly small vulnerability, you put those two together and you get something really like devastating, like code execution, right? This is what happens quite a bit. So just to recap, in this case, we're able to upload files onto the server, and we're able to execute those files just by browsing to them in a web browser. So that's what we're attempting to do here. So if we go back, looks like we got our payload now generated here. So yeah, we'll move out to the exploits, the move command. So now it's tucked away in there. We'll CD in there. And from here, we'll fire up the FTP client again, because we need to upload that file. Oops, I'm so used to my own password here. So let's try that again. We're going to do anonymous FTP. So anonymous, and we'll use the put command to upload that to the server. So we'll just confirm that it's on the server, and yep, we do see it. But before we execute this in the browser, what we're going to want to do is fire up our listener. Hey, what's up, Sathvik? First time seeing you here. Glad to have you here. We're going to go ahead and fire up our listener. Because we generated an interpreter payload, we need to use Metasploit. Now, keep in mind, on the OSCP exam, you're allowed to use Metasploit as much as you want if you're using the listener to connect to an MSF Venom payload. So actually, Metasploit itself, you're only allowed to use that once on the exam, but if you're generating MSF Venom payloads, you can generate that interpreter payload as much as you want. And the only way to connect to that interpreter payload, or I guess have the interpreter payload connect to you in the case of a reverse TCP, as we're doing here, you can use the Metasploit listener as much as you want. So just a little nuance to keep in mind. So we'll say use exploit multi-handler. think multi-dash handler. I could be wrong here. Maybe it was, I think it's this actually. Okay. So we got our listener, but I think it's using the wrong payload, not the payload we want it to use. Oh, really? Dude, that's really cool to hear, man. I've been just making videos every single day for the last 4 months. Like, I just love to do this stuff. I want to help people out in the security space, kind of like the info that I wish I had when I was starting out. So I've just been making a ton of videos, and it's really cool to see that that the message is getting out there. The other people are getting it recommended to them. But yeah, that's really cool. What is your channel about? I'd love to hear. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting the payload to we had on the MSF Venom payload, like when we generated it, because when it defaulted to this generic payload here, this is not going to correctly interact with a meterpreter payload, a meterpreter session. So we have to both have them using the same thing so that we can get a proper shell. Oh, really? Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check out your channel then, man. For sure. Yeah, I've seen a few other guys in here that have their channels in security doing various things. So, yeah, it's always cool to see like other creators as well, see what you guys are up to. But let's see. I want to set my lhost to my Hack the Box network IP address, right? 10.10.14.22. That way it knows which one to connect to, or listen on rather. So this looks good here. I think everything is fine as far as I can tell. We're seeing this payload here. So with that being said, let's try to run this. Oh, and there is one reason why this won't work. I just realized we have it listening on 4444. However, the payload that we generated is looking to connect on 1337. So we just gotta make sure that we set the L port to that same port and run that. Not necessarily. No. So Rob in the chat said, so if you use an MSF Venom payload, set up a listener on Metasploit. Not necessarily. Okay, let me just show you. Let me just show you this here. Here at a glance is a bunch of different payloads you can have, right? So you have meterpreter payloads, you have stage payloads, and you have non-stage payloads. Okay, all these meterpreter payloads here, if you're using a meterpreter payload, then yes, you need to use the Metasploit listener. But if you're using one of these, like a stage payload or a non-stage payload, you can just use a netcat listener. Now, why would you use meterpreter versus stage versus non-stage? Well, it usually comes down to, on the OSCP, the only concern that's going to come down to is how much room do you have in your exploit, right? What I mean by that is sometimes when you exploit a service, you won't have a lot of room for a big payload. These meterpreter payloads, while they have a lot of functionality and they're really nice to work with, they're also the largest. They take up the most space. So that's when you're better served using one of these because it's like a smaller payload size. So if you're, especially I've ran into this with like buffer overflows and stuff. That's where I've normally ran into this size limitation, especially. And then I just want to generate one of these and just use a netcat listener. And but it pretty much, if you can afford to use a meterpreter, get the meterpreter shell, that's usually preferable, especially on Windows. Now I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that if you get use like Metasploit for the shell, for your meterpreter shell, I'm pretty sure they count it as using Metasploit if you start using like post-exploitation modules and stuff like that. But there's other ways that you can basically do the same thing. Like the Windows exploit suggester that they have built into Metasploit, well, if you guys watch some of my other live streams, I've downloaded a Windows exploit suggester Python script that it essentially did the same thing. So for every Metasploit way, there's a non-Metasploit way to do it. Sometimes it's a lot more cumbersome. Other times it's not. So, but yeah, that's the reason that I'm using the Metasploit multi-handler in this case. So yeah, now that we have this listener going, let me reopen the web browser. And we'll go to that payload that we generated. Now, hopefully it works fine with ASP. If not, we can try to generate an AXPX one. So we call it devel.asp. So yeah, looks like there's a bit of an error here. Yeah, and I need to do a better job of linking the videos in the cards for you guys. And some of the older stuff I'm gonna probably remake anyways. Now that a lot of people came on board after that. Discord server. It's funny you mentioned that. I'm working on it right now. I know I've been kind of behind on schedule with that. But yes, I am actually creating a little Discord community for you guys. I know a lot of us are working towards the same goals, so thought it'd be cool to have a space where we could talk security, hack the box, OSCP, whatever. So the holidays kind of slowed me down on my schedule with that, but yeah, look for that soon. I'll let you guys know when that's out. I need to start posting more on my Twitter account and linking my Twitter more. I need to change the name on that first. It defaulted to something with like numbers in it, so yeah. I have quite a bit to catch up on. But yeah, there will be a Discord server. But yeah, looks like we ran into some kind of issue here. We can try the ASPX. Now, let's confirm. If it was just some file that didn't exist, it would give me a different error, right? Yeah, it would give me the 404. Now, it could also be that it's like a 64-bit system, for all I know. So we wanna play around with this payload a little bit to get it to work properly for us. Let's see. I don't think I can up arrow it because that was in a different session. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to redo that one then. Let's try the same payload. You know what? Actually, let's just go ahead and try our hand at that 64-bit one. So if we do that, and of course set our L host and then L port, we'll use the same stuff. Since we have our listener running already, easiest just to continue to use that port. We'll do ASP again, just to keep it consistent. The only thing we're changing is before we did the Windows 32-bit payload, this time we're going to try the 64-bit. We'll call it devel64.asp. So we'll give it a minute to generate that. And of course, we're going to have to reconnect to an FTP session here so we can upload it. Oh, shoot. It's okay that I'm not in the same directory. I should be able to specify that. So we do a put command. We'll say exploits directory devel64.asp. And just to confirm we see it there. Do we not? Looks like it didn't upload it. Cannot find path specified. Okay, yeah, maybe this is something tricky with. Okay, let's just do this. It'll be easier if we just go into exploits. Anonymous. And now we'll try this again. And now we actually do see it there. Okay, great. If you notice the size difference between the 64-bit interpreter payload versus the 32-bit, it's actually quite substantially larger. Just something interesting to note. ASPX, you think? Okay. Yeah, you guys probably know. If you guys want to save me some time, then cool, we'll do that. If you say that, then you probably know. Because I'm kind of doing this blind here. Oh, we'll just do this. And the 32-bit one. 32-bit was just like this, I believe, yeah. So, yep, once that finishes generating, then we'll just go ahead and upload that one. Just confirm that we see it here, and we do. So now if we go back to our listener here, we can see if we can grab that one. Okay, this is interesting. Now we actually are seeing some web config stuff, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if we can view that web config file. Is it web.config? Or is it? See where this is located. Because I know there were vulnerabilities in like web config files. I think that is like in one of the older versions of Windows, like of IIS and stuff, which is what we're dealing with here, right? I wonder if maybe it's not accessible from here. That's why I wanted to run my GoBuster scan against it earlier. But let's just go back and see the exact error that it was throwing. Web config configuration file located in the root directory of the current web application. So, it sounds like it should be just web.config. I think I tried that right. Yeah. Let's see. Well, for good measure, let's just go ahead and get this running. All right. So this is what I was trying to do earlier, just get this going in the background. Maybe you'll find some web config stuff. IIS 7.5 web config. Now, I could be like going down the wrong path with this, but I do remember kind of like some kind of like poisoning on the web config file or something you could do, or some kind of modification you can make to it to actually get code execution. I know I've done that a long time ago. Maybe one thing that we can check as well is can proxy this and see what's going on there. Hey, what's up, Jack? Hey, man, doing pretty good. Hope you are as well. But yeah, we're making a lot of progress on this box. And that's the nice thing. If you do like a lot of recon on stuff, on like all your boxes, then you can get a lot of information pretty early on. A lot of the time is just going to be spent, as you probably noticed, just sort of finagling with stuff, getting them to work properly when you're... I mean, sometimes on the exam, there's a lot of rabbit holes and stuff, unfortunately, so that's something. But that's going to be where a lot of your time goes, is just like getting exploits to work or, you know, stuff like that. But now that I have this listening, we can go back here. Let's go ahead and set up our proxy. So we'll go ahead and run this again while we're proxying. And just see like the request, response, stuff like that. And it looks like this is like struggling to find stuff, interestingly enough. Yeah, this is just some of the extra recon that you end up doing. Because it looks like there's something preventing us from running the script. Like it tried to run it. But I wonder, yeah, it seems that, I mean, it's telling me that it should be accessible here. Maybe that's just like the default configuration, and they have it configured differently on the server. So I'm trying to see what tabs I have here. I mean, unless it really is a different, like a 64-bit system or something like that, and that's why it didn't work. But, I mean, that might be something to try as well. But yeah, this did throw a different error than before when we ran the other one, right? Because the other one gave us a very generic error, right? This time it actually mentions the web config. So let me see if I have anything on this. So a lot of times you just like hit walls on this. And but if you take notes on all this stuff you do, sometimes you can just look through things, and sometimes different ideas will jump out at you. Though I really think we were on the right path with the whole ASPX thing. Because we definitely are able to execute stuff on here. we could just simply try a different shell. We might very well be running into the issue of not having enough space. You know what? I bet you that's what it is. Because it's throwing an error, right? What's the script? Oh, okay, very simple. I'll show you. So what I was running is, let me go back a couple directories here. I'm just running this. I just hate typing this long command every time. So the read command in Linux, basically with the -p flag, whatever text you want it to prompt the user for in double quotes, and then it's saying whatever the user types, save it as this IP variable. So I'm just prompting the user for the IP address. And then whatever extensions they want to use, I'm saving that as the ext variable. And then I'm just feeding that into this long GoBuster command that I didn't want to type manually, so I made a script for. I mean, yeah, very elementary script here, but definitely does save time. And even saving a little tiny bit of time, compounded over all the boxes you're going to be doing recon on, it really does help, I will say. So if I just break down this command, we're running GoBuster in dir mode, directory brute forcing mode. We're running it with 50 threads. I think the default is like 20. So by running it with 50 threads, it's going to complete quicker, use more resources. Basically, you have more sub-processes running. And then this is the word list that I typically use, so I just kind of hard-coded that in there. Kind of a quick and dirty script, not a one-size-fits-all, but this script will work in a lot of situations. And then -x, and then passing in any of the extensions that I might have entered in when it prompted me for the extensions, right? And then -u, and then the URL, which is going to include the IP address, because I'm doing hack the box and it's not using DNS. And then I just save it as like the IP address. That's what I call the file. So, yep, that's what I'm using there. But, yeah, now that I had a minute to think on this one, we're getting an error when we should be getting a shell, right? So one of the things that possibly hints at is that we don't have enough room to run that huge payload, because it is a pretty large payload here, right? Well, that wasn't the one, right? It was this one here. This is still a pretty large payload, I bet you, compared to the non-meterpreter one. So that's another thing that we can we can try. Let's try to run the what is it, staged or is it non-staged? What's that called? I always get the staged and non-staged mixed up. Let's run a non-staged payload. So if we want to do that, we're going to come up here to MSF Venom again. Can up arrow it, make things a bit quicker. Let's just change the name of the file because I don't want to get mixed up. We'll call it Devel NC because we're going to use netcat now instead. We're going to use a non-meterpreter payload. So if we just do, let's see, Windows, what is it? Windows shell reverse TCP. Yeah, that's the one. So if we just run this here, this will just generate a pretty generic payload that we can just, it will connect to like a netcat session or whatever. So we can keep everything else the same. We'll just generate that. As we're approaching the top of the hour here, it would be nice if we could conclude with at least getting our initial access on this box. I'm feeling pretty hopeful about it. We'll see how it goes. We'll give this a second to run. Whoops, I'm hitting buttons on my YouTube studio over here. Hopefully it's not messing with anything. But okay, now we see we have yet another payload on here. we're going to go with this one that we generated, right? Let me clear the screen so there's less in our way. We're going to just use our netcat listener here. We'll go ahead and set that up. 1337. And, yeah, that's pretty much all we... Oh, right. We're already listening on that because of our Metasploit thing, which we need to close out of. So, oh, man. See, I didn't properly name my tabs, and it's coming back to bite me now as I have a lot of stuff going on, not very organized. But, okay, let's try this again. Okay, cool. Now we're freed up there now that we closed out of Metasploit. So we're going to listen on that port here with netcat, and we'll go ahead and do a put. There's no way this is still active, I bet you. Yeah, FTP, if you AFK it for a bit, it'll just log you out. So it's a very short timer for that. Something to keep in mind. So once again, just logging in to the anonymous FTP. We're going to put develnc.aspx. Right? And yep, we got that there. So now that we have done that, let's just go ahead and execute that. Looks like we're having some issues yet still. I wonder, let's see, I think I typed in everything properly here. Let's see. If I just close out of this, let's just look through this. This looks good. Oh, you know what? Wow. I did not realize this mistake. I guess no one caught this, but the format I didn't change. I changed the name of the file and I had not changed the format. Wow. So yeah, these are the little mistakes that will eat away at your time. So you got to really pay attention to every little detail on these. You know what? Now that we notice that, I'm wondering if we just go back to the Meterpreter one. If that works properly. I have a feeling it does. Now I'm like kind of curious, so let's test that out really quick, shall we? We'll just go ahead and do this, giving it the proper format and everything. Oh shoot, I don't want to generate it as that. We'll generate it as, man, we have a million payloads on here now. This is so messy, but before I exit out here, I do want to try that. So we'll just fire up MSF console. We already ran the MSFDB run initially, so our Metasploit database is started up. So now we just connect with MSF console. If I just connect with MSF console without firing up the database, it's a lot slower, which doesn't matter for us right now. We're not going to be searching stuff on Metasploit. We're just going to use a multi-handler, but this is a habit I've gotten into. So we will fire this up again. Check the options on it. We're going to set the payload. There's a lot of things we're going to have to change here. First of all, we're going to set the payload to what I had before, which is this. And then we're going to set lhost to 10.10.14.22 and set lport to 1337. And then we should be able to run that, start up our listener, and cool, that's running. Let's name this MSF so I can keep track of things better. And over here, we see that did generate as an ASPX file. If we actually scroll up here, you'll see here, even though I generate it like this, it says here final size of ASP file, right? Because the format we had here was ASP, therefore it generated an ASP file. You'll name it whatever you want to name it, right? But it's an ASP file, and I think that's why we were getting the error before. But this time it is an ASPX file. as we intended. So now that we have that, let's go back down here. Hopefully it didn't expire my session on this, but if not, we can put devel2.aspx. And see, that's how quick it closes out on you. So I'll just have to log in again. All right, cool. Now that's on the server along with the other 10 or so payloads we have on here. But now that we're doing that, we'll go back to our listener and we'll just execute that in the browser. So, okay, no error message, so that's a good sign. Let's check over here, and we see it opened a Meterpreter session. So we did figure it out. We figured out the issue. We got it going. We can see, what are the, like get UID, I think. Username. I think we can run who am I? Is that one? No, that's not one. I always forget the Meterpreter commands. I know shell is a command where you can just drop into a shell, but there's a lot of other things that you can run as well. Let's see. I might have that in my notes somewhere. I don't know if I do. I feel like I probably should somewhere. Okay, yeah, I do. So yeah, this is a good command. Sysinfo. Get some information on the system. Okay, so it was not a Windows 2008. It was a Windows 7. Remember when we looked up and we saw IIS HTTPD 7.5? It said it could be either Windows 7 or Windows 2008. In this case, it is actually a client machine, a Windows 7 box. So that's pretty interesting. It is a 32-bit system here. And yeah, that's some pretty good info there. We can run, oh yeah, we can run PS to see what the running processes are on the system. Looks like just some essential Windows stuff. And we'll dive more into the privilege escalation in another one. I want to see, I think there should be a command to see who you are. You might have to drop into a shell first though. Let me just see at a glance here. Yeah, I think you got to jump in first. So if we type in shell, that should spawn a shell. And then, what is it? Who am I? Does that work on here? Okay. That is actually the name of the user. So when I ran get UID, that's my user here. So yeah, this definitely looks like a lower level system account. This is like the IIS account. And so we're going to need to escalate privileges, of course, to like the NT authority system, which is the Windows equivalent to root. So we'll be doing that in the next episode when we come back in on Wednesday. Wednesday. Man, all these schedule changes. But no, this is going to probably be the schedule for a little bit, Wednesday to Friday, at least until I go on Christmas break. And then we'll pick back up in January. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for showing up in the chat and giving me some good suggestions here. And yeah, if you guys have been enjoying the content so far, please subscribe. Definitely help us out. Hit the like button. And I will see you guys in the next video.